You're listening to episode 294 of the Major Issues Podcast. In this episode, we talk about whether or not superhero fatigue is a real thing and get into DC's latest project, Blue Beetle. The Major Issues Podcast starts right now! Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason, and it's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and most weeks by ComicBookClique.com. And as always, I am never alone, sir. If you could please introduce yourself.
Your boy, your man, 50 grand, Cloudus Maximus.
Cloudus Maximus is in the building, and it was with Cloudus Maximus that I basically started this journey of Comic Book Clique, this journey of wanting to review and talk about the latest and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media, TV shows, movies, video games, one-shots, all of it. The podcast is about 7 years old. Comic Book Clique is 7 years old. It's been a hell of a journey. It's been a burden of love. And one of the coolest things is, even though I moved 2 years ago to a different state and haven't been able to have people in a studio to record these episodes, we actually were able to watch the big subject of today's episode, Blue Beetle, together, which is something we haven't done since Infinity War, possibly
So.
Endgame.
Since he moved. What was it since he moved? Endgame, right?
Well, I moved in 2021. 2020, we had no films because of the pandemic for the most part. And then 2019 would have been Endgame, or if something came out later on that year, possibly Spider-Man. Maybe No Way Home or Far From Home or Yada Home.
I gotta look in pictures.
Yeah, because I was in Florida for Far From Home. So, but it was cool. I was able to sit there with you and watch Blue Beetle, and that was super fun. It kind of took me back to the old days of why I started this to begin with. But before we get into the Blue Beetle of it all, I need to get checked. I need to go to a doctor of some sort, because I am wondering if I am coming down with the disease that people have seemingly came up with overnight.
Is it what's going around?
This was what's going around, bro. It's going around. I'm trying to figure out.
How'd you get it?
I feel a bit fatigued.
Fatigued? You're a little tired. I was gonna ask you. You're a little bit tired.
I'm a little tired, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm tired of, because the overall
I may have some remedy for that.
That could totally.
I do believe.
I have my mind open, because when I started this Comic Book Clique, I remember even early on people talking about the quote unquote superhero bubble and how it was eventually going to pop. We'd get so saturated that we'd be tired of it. And to me, that didn't make much sense, because I basically read comics every day and I don't get tired of it. And I remember even saying, kind of cocky. I was cocky when I said it. I remember saying, like, there's no way, like, that superhero fatigue is a real thing, or that the comic book bubble is going to burst anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
But I have found myself in the last recent theater watches having very little patience for really small things when it comes to comic book movies recently. My personal diagnosis, I'll give you my personal diagnosis, and you can go ahead and, again, this is me and you talking. I could care less.
Right. Like, I'll just search for your symptoms. I'll touch you and tell me where it hurts.
Tell me if I have internet connectivity problems. But so I still maintain that I don't have superhero fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
What I believe I have is, I'm self-diagnosing here. I have fatigue for origin stories.
Those were one of the things I was going to mention.
Because the film that we're going to talk about, I don't think had anything really wrong with it at all.
Uh-huh.
But I've yet to be I wasn't impressed, I guess is the word I want to use. Besides what I feel like is probably the best special effects we've seen in a year, roughly. The best practical suit that we've seen probably ever. Possibly ever.
That was cute as hell. I like that.
And definitely some moments of heart and humor, which is the things that I look for in this stuff. But certain things like The Sandman on Netflix, certain things like Across the Spider-Verse, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which we also got to watch together. I feel like those are such game-changing films that we can't go back. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels weird to me to go back to phase one, and DC seems to have been at phase one for like 5 years.
This whole time, yeah.
And it's exhausting. That's the fatigue that I have, because I'm gonna go see the Marvels, and I expect to be entertained by the Marvels, because I know it's not gonna be regular person bumping into their superpowers. Bumping into their superpowers and all this other kind of stuff.
I think that's what it is, man. I feel like there's so many ways you can tell an origin or the beginning of somebody else's story or path when it comes to comic book stuff, that if you're not gonna tell it and you're already gonna introduce that somebody's more really established or like even like a bigger name, I feel like you just bypass the whole origin completely. That's kind of been proven. Look at Batman versus Superman. Look at Peter.
There's no origin story in the Batman. They never show the crime alley scene. Also, that's restraint.
Even more so. It even drives the point. I feel like people are getting tired of the same thing. But it's like you got to find other. If you're gonna tell the origin story, I feel like you need to find different ways to tell it. Or at least just just like tweak it in ways where it's more interesting. You know what I mean?
Totally. And the thing is, I remember having some of these criticisms for Black Adam when I saw them. I remember thinking like the Dr. Fate stuff is cool, but we've seen it. The Hawkman stuff is cool, but we've seen it. It's not your fault that you're late to the gate, but maybe it kind of is.
But I still feel like I don't think the origin stories are gonna be you always have an origin story, but I just feel
we got to. It's a staple of comic books. I just feel like
they're gonna slow it down they should slow it down as far as like it depends on the character. Everybody knows Soups is from Krypton. Everybody knows what happens to Peter gets bit by the spider. Everybody knows how Cap becomes Cap. But that's another thing. Some people
he punched a radioactive Hitler and then he got superpowers.
Some of these origin stories are, if they haven't been told but so many times by now, then to be honest, it's worth the watch. You know what I mean? You get Kamala was good to watch. That was fun.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like I equated this film to this is a very obscure reference if you don't get it, but I equated this film to Darby Allin versus CM Punk, which was a very good match that they had in All Elite Wrestling. But some of the best moments in that match were from a Bret Hart 1-2-3 Kid match. And if you've seen the Bret Hart 1-2-3 Kid match, you might sit there and be like, just like I assume, like there might be people who were big Progress watchers that are like, oh, this Gunther stuff is kind of lightweight compared to what we saw, when Walter was being Walter. And so, like, I hate that my mind does this, but there's several points in which I'm watching the film and I'm like, we've seen that.
Right. Of course. No, but that's
and I'm like, this kind of sucks.
That's where a lot of us, are at though, because we've been on this ride for how long now?
I mean,
and that's not even to like single out any universe, any DC universe or
MCU.
And that's just going like you in this whole span you've seen a lot. You know what I'm saying? So if you feel like you've seen it way too many times, then even without having to point it out, you'll notice that.
I feel like, and I wanted to ask you this, and this is obviously nothing
Huh?
too personal, but you know, you're a man with a family. You have a lot of responsibilities, and because you don't have to do this every week, there are some projects and properties that you kind of let slip. Do you think that has in any way affected your patience with all of this? The fact that you don't kind of have to be and have seen absolutely everything?
But that's the thing. Like I like to I like that. So the fact that I miss a few things, um, I don't want to say it angers me so,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I want to catch as most as I can. But even with the things I do watch, if something reminds me of something else, or like if I'm watching Spidey, right?
Yeah.
There's no origin in Spidey, but you still get like callbacks or whatever. Um, but it's like, dude, the whole thing is like at this point, if you've been watching for so long, like you'll notice, like I said before, you'll notice things, and it's not even like
I felt
you'll know.
I felt like Peter B. Parker. There's always a gizmo or a who's a
There you
what's it,
go.
and yeah, he's gonna say you have 24 hours. You have 24 hours. You know, like that.
Yeah,
That's how I
pretty
felt.
standard villain stuff. So
That's how I felt about some of this
you
stuff.
get it. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
get it, and it's up to you whether you want to like. Well, it's up to you at that point whether you decide to if you genuinely dig it. But if you don't, then that you're just not going to be with it because you know you get seen it already.
How do you feel about the overall idea of superhero fatigue? The idea that people like this might be kind
Um,
of
I
worldwide.
I understand it. I understand it better. Um, and it's hard to like really want to say the way I want to say it because I don't want to put any. DC has put out some stuff that people haven't received very positive. I feel like the bad movies attribute to the fatigue way more than anything else. And
I
I
can
want
see
to
that.
put and I want to put and I want to put bad movies, the bad superhero movies in quotation marks because you know stuff is
Yeah,
subjective and all that jazz. But you get where I'm coming from.
100%. And you know what else? I've spoken to common people. Most common people don't know the difference between a Marvel and a DC movie. They don't know why
Right.
Batman and Captain America are not hanging out. They got no clue because they don't know that they're two different companies. The common, you know, like the like my mom,
Uh-huh.
you know, if I told her to name
So
3 DC Comics characters, she's like, "What? Like just
who?
comic characters?" And she'll just start naming them. And
Mhm.
that's the common person. So I also know that my opinion is a bit unique because I am knee deep in this stuff by
Yeah,
choice,
of course.
by choice. But then you start to think, like I start to, come down with the cough of fatigue, and I start to
Hmm.
go like, oh well, maybe I'm not sick, maybe it's not whatever, whatever, whatever. And then I'll see across Spider Verse, and it's the
Ah.
Vicks on my chest, and I'm like, okay, and then I think I'm fine, and then bump into something else again, and I'm just like, we gotta get past this, man. We gotta. There's
Right.
so much on the top shelf. You guys, and ironically, DC can't go to the top. Like they need to play it safe for a bit. They need to just bunt, right? But I feel
This is
like
true.
also Marvel's been bunting because they've hit so many home runs. So I feel like across the board, there's a lot of bunting going around. There's a lot of like, let's just get this ball hit on
Hmm.
let's just get to the next
When it's
base.
time to hit, they'll know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's time to get to the next base. And I wonder if that frustration is unearned because um I don't want to be jaded. I don't want to
Right.
get to a point where I'm just like, oh, comic books. Like I do love this stuff, but I also recognize that my love of comic books spans all
Hmm.
kinds of stories. It's not just what they call cape shit. It's not just
Hmm. Hmm.
superhero stories. Maybe they're mysteries, maybe they're horror. Maybe they're allegories. There's very interesting stories in comic books that aren't based on person A gets their powers and then fights person
Hmm.
B, you know?
Fights the bad guy.
Right. And I think that there's more that this medium can do, but right now it doesn't behoove those in power to look deeper for the real
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
stories
So
if
for
they can
now,
just
we're gonna get is the capes, the cape stuff. At least for
Yeah,
the most part, in a sense, you
and
know.
yeah, and you got to put a little bit of that into the other stuff because, like, we talked about Secret Invasion, right? And like Secret Invasion is cape stuff, but it's cape. It's the icing of cape stuff. The cake itself is spy thriller. It's about trust, who you can trust. It's about secret agents and sleeper agents, and whether or not you can trust your neighbor, and the differences between you and other cultures. Like, there's so many other different things there. The best comic book movies have superhero icing, but the cake itself is denser. It's something richer. It's something more high concept. Um, Even Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. If you haven't seen it, go out and check it out. It's very clear what the theme is in that, but they knock it out of the park. So, like, it's super fine, and I don't know why that worked there, but didn't work here for me. But I will also say that I had somebody who really, really liked this film, which whenever somebody comes up to me and tells me that they really, really like something, I look at the film a little bit out of the corner of my eye because I'm expecting a level of something. And that this film didn't hit that for me. It might hit that for other people, and I don't want to not be
Rain
invited
on
to
that
the
parade.
party
Yeah.
because you know what I'm saying? But it's like you said, things are subjective. You don't have to like everything. You don't have to dislike everything. You should go where your heart is being filled. So I will be waiting for Beyond the Spider-Verse. I will be waiting for the Sandman season 2. I will be waiting for Mooney. Come back, Mooney. I feel like ain't nothing seen me like I seen that show. And that's what I'm saying. When we're sitting there with that, like, that felt so high concept, and we didn't start it with origin story. We didn't start it with, and then he, kneeled in front of the statue, and then he became Moon Knight, and then what are these wacky
He
powers?
was
Like,
already wigging out, going outside, rooftop to
right.
rooftop.
Yes. The universe all felt lived in. It didn't feel like it had to be built building by building. And DC has to build it building by building because they haven't built nothing in 10 years. Or whatever they have built, they've
Hey,
gone.
listen, they've been trying really hard. Okay, they're trying
Yeah,
really hard.
I know I'm just being super mean to. I
Just
blame
really
you,
hard.
Dwayne Johnson. To be honest, I blame you. Um, uh, but yeah, I still will say that I liked Blue Beetle, and I would recommend it to those who haven't seen it. Um, but I've got to turn a corner here, and I've got to. This sounds terrible, but lower my expectations a bit for certain projects, and then higher my
Right.
expectations.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Don't feel bad. Don't feel
You
bad.
know, I like there is a lot of comic book stuff gotten wrong just on the pure strength of not understanding what you're covering. I think of Titans, on DC's Titans. Could you believe that there's a live action version of the Titans that you're not going crazy over? That you're not
That's
like, I gotta
crazy.
see the next
I've
episode of
always said
Beast
that, and
Boy, Starfire,
you've been trying
Robin.
to get me to watch Titans for
But then I jumped
quite a
off of
few.
season 3.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like after all, yeah.
So it's like it's tiresome, and then Flash ending, Arrow ending. We're just gonna erase
First
those
of
from
all,
the face of the earth.
the Flash died a slow death. Let's not.
It died a slow death, and then it didn't even get like a in memoriam in the Flash movie. It didn't even get like a dedication in the Flash movie. So yeah, it's a lot. I hope to cover more books on here soon as production start to slow down because of the writer's strike and
Right.
stuff. And
Hey,
maybe
I have Samurai Deadpool at the wing.
okay.
I'm gonna start. I should start that soon, actually.
Yeah, I've been, and the thing is, like, I start some books, like I started the new Nightwing book, which is really, really cool. Um, Tom Taylor. And I've read some, not one shots, but, what you would call like indie comics that have a definitive end. And those are really, really cool. I just gotta find my story again. Cause I feel like I've lost it in the mix of all this kind of stuff. And, it's funny because when I saw the Flash, I didn't hate the Flash because I reserved all that hate for Black Adam. So by the time I got to the Flash, I really had no hate left over, and I was just like, you know what? Graphics aside, main character aside, this tone is what they need to go forward. I feel very similarly with Blue Beetle, and obviously you can't color everybody in this with the same brush. You know, I don't want
Right,
Batman to
right, right.
necessarily have the Blue Beetle kind of humor in it. But yeah, I like this. Maybe I would have been more juiced if like he was coming into an established universe where we still had Diana, where I know who Batman is,
Right.
where I
I mean,
know
yeah, he
where
did
I
name drop
know
Batman.
who
He
Superman
name
is,
dropped
where
Soups.
gosh,
That's where it gets. That's where it got weird for me when he name dropped Soups. I'm like, yeah, but
which Superman? You know, which Superman? Um is there anything else you'd like to say on the superhero fatigue of it all? Any
I just get.
recommendations? Any?
I just get it, and if you and people are really getting if it's getting under the skin, I just go back to something. I just go back to watching something that that I've already
Yeah.
watched and that'll bring it back to life.
I will also say that the fatigue, you know, for whatever reason, for like, but I say for whatever reason, people have various reasons. But perhaps this will cause studios to step their game up and not believe that
Oh,
anything
I
with a
hope so.
superhero title on it is just going to do well and make money. But studios rarely learn the real lesson, so we'll see how all that goes. But if you got the fatigue, I believe it. I believe it's real. I say think of the projects, film, TV that you were most excited for, and possibly venture into reading comics. I think that comics is an unlimited source of the joy you feel when you watch a good comic book adaptation. Um, Without all the middleman. And it's also comic reading is also a very personal experience because you read at your pace. You read you hear the voices in your head and no one else can
Mhm.
hear them. Whatever voices you give these characters, etc., and so forth. So I always thought that it's a pretty cool experience to just sit down with a really big book and kind of get through it. Um, but yeah, the future of comics is going to be fine. We'll see what they start to greenlight. Still excited for James Gunn's DCU. There's no more EU. It's just a DCU. And this is supposed to be the first step, although it wasn't supposed to be. We got Aquaman after this, bro.
I was just about to say, what's after this? It's
Aquaman
all
2.
right. I mean, listen, we took a step in the right direction almost, right? So
Yeah.
let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Um, is there anything you want to say spoiler free about Blue Beetle before we get into all of it?
Lots of heart, but there's a difference when you just throw a bunch of heart in and have nothing behind it. This has both.
Yeah, it didn't feel fake or
Yeah,
phoned in.
the heart is great, and the follow through is
Yeah, yeah. And it speaks to a very unique culture. It speaks to a very unique perspective, point of view. I think
Mhm.
those who've lived that life, this is going to be everything they wanted more, similar to how Across was to me being a Puerto Rican in Brooklyn. Like that
Right.
when I saw that, I was like, that's such a unique lived experience. I didn't think so, because when you live in the city, everyone around you lives in the city.
Hmm.
But if you go anywhere else, New York City should be its own island. Basically, it should be its own. It got its own language, it got its own food, it's got its own people, and there hasn't really been much, geared towards them when it comes to comic book stuff, like New York City, that kind of culture. So when I see like Luke Cage, when I see Into the Spider Verse, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles recently, we're talking about bacon, egg, and cheese, and urine, and all that kind of stuff. Um, I'm like, okay, I feel seen. So I hope people get that from this as well. I hope my Latinos, mi gente, get to see this and be proud of it. And I hope when you know what thought crossed my mind today, and I don't know if this is like a backhanded compliment. I think this would have been a 5-star HBO Max film.
Ooh.
I think this would have been like rave reviews, all that, you know.
I
But
mean, at least it's making money too, though. So
Oh, 100%. And it
that's
was
great.
geared to make under. Like I said, and it's gonna have a rough time only because they can't promote it, given the writer's
Mhm.
strike.
Of
None
course,
of the
yeah.
actors are allowed to do the Jimmy Kimmels and the Jimmy Fallons and all the other Jimmys, and sit there, do the hot ones, all the random shit you got to
Hmm.
do once your movie's coming out. I looked at myself on IMDb and I've got to talk about all my roles or whatever. They can't do any of that stuff. Um, but yeah, I hope people like it. I recommend it. And if you really liked it, listen through, and Jarvis is going to talk about a lot of good things, and I'm going to talk about some moments that I just moments that made me think of other things.
Right,
Because again, I don't think there's much bad with this film.
right, right.
But Blue Beetle is a 2023 American superhero film based on the DC comic character Jaime Reyes. Blue Beetle, produced by DC Studios and the Safran Company. The film was directed by Angel Manuel Soto and written by Gareth Dunnett Alcocer. It is the 14th installment in the DC Extended Universe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The film stars Zolo Maridueña
Maridueña.
As Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle, alongside Adriana Barraza, Damien Alcazar, Elpidia Carrillo,
There you go. There you
Bruna
go. There you go.
Marquezine, Raul Max Trujillo, Julio,
Raúl Trujillo.
George Lopez, and Susan Sorandan. You like that
There you
last one?
go. We out here.
All right. So, spoilers. We talk about the film. Our film starts off with the introduction of our villain, Victoria Cord, co-founder of Cord Industries, as her and her crew discover a huge artifact in the Antarctic. She believes it holds what she has been searching for 15 years, an entity known as the Scarab. She commands her people to work round clock to crack open the artifact and retrieve the ancient alien tech inside. Working for her is a mysterious scarred man with robotic prosthetics. Boom, boom, boom. So we get introduced earlier on to Susan Sarandon's Victoria Cord, which, I recognize the name. I know Ted Cord is the original Blue Beetle. Well, not the original Blue Beetle. Dan Garrett's the original Blue Beetle, but the Blue Beetle most know, the 60s, 70s, Charlton Comics, Booster Gold, and Blue Beetle is Ted Cord. So I had heard early on that Victoria Cord was a villain in this, and I was like, that doesn't seem to make much. It's like his wife, his angry wife. Like, what's going on here? But no, it's an angry sister. It's an angry sister who didn't get her respect from her father. Through our opening credits, we see how the Scarab might have crash landed on Earth hundreds of years ago, and how its legend has grown from cave paintings depicting the Scarab to news headlines about the search and discovery for it. Whatever the Scarab has, people have been spending a lot of time and money looking for it. So,
I
what do you
like
think about this beginning?
I like the trip that we went on with the Scarab getting to Earth. That was fun.
Yeah,
Did that thing bump? Did that thing bump into? Well, it bumped.
it blew up a
First of all,
planet.
yeah, it blew a planet. One, it bumped into a couple of things. An asteroid went through a planet. I want to say for cheap pop, it bumped into a ring. But that could have been me probably just seeing things. I saw some. I believe it was something green I saw, but I don't know. I guess it's up to interpretation, and I haven't heard nobody else mention that either. So I'm probably just seeing things because I'm in
No, I think
space.
that's pretty interesting. Also, this is the part where I was like, "Oh, we might be in trouble," because I remember, like, the opener gave me Incredible Hulk flashbacks
Uh-huh.
of the newspapers and the specs for the truck
Uh-huh.
that's gonna do the things and stuff. But I was like, it is what it is. We get a shot of Palmera City, the hometown of our protagonist, Jaime Reyes, who has just graduated from Gotham Law Academy. Pre-law in Gotham. I mean, I don't know. I would not go to school in Gotham, bro. I go to school in Metropolis. You feel me? So that if the whole thing burns down, I got somebody that can save me, not somebody who only comes out at night. Shit. His family eagerly awaits his arrival at the airport, but seems to be hiding something. Dum dum dum. We meet his parents, his abuela, his surly sister, and his tech-wise conspiracy theorist Uncle Rudy. Later, after tacos, Jaime's parents come clean about their financial troubles. They are set to be evicted in a few months, and after the father had a heart attack, they were unable to maintain the family business. Jaime expresses regret for not being around to help, but they try to ease his mind, explaining there's nothing that they can do and they should just be celebrating the fact that he's graduated from college. Jaime and his sister share beers and have a deep discussion on the roof of their family home. He confesses that he feels it was his job to get them out of the hood, and he's disappointed in himself. His sister reminds him that things like the class system and gentrification aren't his fault, but Jaime swears in 5 years, with his degree, he will have saved his family from their current struggles.
Animo. Right?
How did you feel about the introduction of Jaime's family?
I'm obviously, well, not obviously, but I'm a big fan of his woke uncle.
But you know what's funny? What I liked about his uncle is that he says so much that he makes sense on occasion. So it makes you wonder how smart he is or how brainwashed he is. He's either one or the other, right? Because the doomsday guy, the doomsday prepper, the guy that has all the dry food in his house, all the tang, the steel door and all that kind of stuff, he's crazy until doomsday happens. And then he's a superhero. And very similar, Uncle Rudy sounds crazy when he's talking about like scanners and all the police, and that's how the man's going to try to track you. But later on, he helps out with some anti-surveillance tech. So I think I like how they played him not 100% just some random tech genius, and not 100%, just kind of jerry rigging stuff. And I think we all kind of got a jerry rigging uncle who can make some stuff if he really had to get past. So I really like the situation there. But again, they're sitting on the rooftop, and I'm just thinking of Kamala.
Oh, man, come on.
You understand? I'm thinking of Kamala. Sitting there,
but that's what I was saying. But that's what I was saying earlier.
She goes. Come on, man. We're from the Edge Keys. You already know whatever. And I'm like, yeah, man. A brown girl from Jersey ain't supposed to. yada 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 yada. And I was like,
Animo.
Right. I like their appeal. I mean their rapport. I like them. I guess now's the time to say that I don't know if I'm 100% a fan of the actor who plays Jaime.
Oh, interesting.
I feel as if he overacted, but I feel he overacted because this is his first film. This is very first film.
Yeah. Oh, he's 2 for 2 for those right now. Then. Wow.
He's known. He's known for Cobra Kai. That's his biggest role, is Cobra Kai. And the guy's got talent, but during some of like the angst and certain other things, there was a little heavy-handed. And I'm just like, get past it. I don't think they did enough in this film to show me who Jaime is. I feel like I learned about Jaime through other people and through his response to situations. But
you feel like
I don't know much about him.
You don't know what he got.
I don't know what his stilo is. You understand? I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know what kind of music he listens to. Again, not to be that guy, but like I knew that about Miles. I knew what kind of kicks he liked. I knew what kind of music.
They show him listening to some stuff. No,
they play music while he's looking at his phone. That song you were bumping to,
right?
But he's not listening to it. He's looking at his phone.
He's not?
No, he's looking at his phone.
I think
you're right.
Jenny, I think you're right. Yeah.
And then he goes to go talk to his father because we're about to get to that scene. You know what I'm saying? So he doesn't say who his favorite artist is. He doesn't we don't know if he likes superheroes. He just mentions Superman off the rip. There's no pop culture references. That's all the family. They're the ones throwing the Maria del Barrio out, which I was pretty cool. That's a deep cut in my house. So that was a deep cut here. Yeah. We'll get there. But I just, come on. The kid got something. He's got something.
Yeah, he definitely does, bro. But he's just, you want to see it. And if anything, you want to see more.
I want to see more Zolo in here, in Jaime. Because I feel like, some people you feel are playing the character, and some people you feel are the character.
I feel like he's getting there because I was every time he suited up, I was kind of watching him very carefully. I think he's got it, bro. And more importantly, I feel like he's also having a good time with it too. And the second time around, I feel like he'll be more in his own joint,
And also, like we said again, as his first movie, I couldn't do this with my first movie. I couldn't get nowhere close. I can't give him any sort of advice or anything like that. I just thought I just noticed, but again, some of these MCU actors had 10 years of acting before they started any of this kind of stuff. Even Tom Holland had a good 5 before Spider-Man, and then he got to practice Spider-Man in Civil War before having to do the entire film by himself. It's a lot. So we smash cut to a bit of a time jump and see that Jaime's sister has gotten him a job as doing maintenance for Victoria Cord alongside her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you've seen Shang-Chi, but there's a scene in Shang-Chi where he looks to be whipping it in a very expensive car,
right? And he's
dressed
not
to the nines.
He's doing valet.
It's revealed that he's doing that. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm just there, just like, I get it. It's funny,
right?
It was funny the first time, It was good. So speaking of Miss Cord, she gets a surprising visit from her niece, Ted Cord's daughter, Jennifer. Jennifer's not a character.
Right.
I'm saying that right now. She's a love interest in this. I think that that's the only reason why they really got her.
Right.
And very pretty. Thought the actress was very talented. But feels like a hodgepodge kind of situation of like, this is gonna sound really weird. This might get the podcast kicked off the air. She's almost too pretty for her job.
Uh-huh.
At one point, she fully becomes like Tomb Raider, like she's in a wife beater with guns and stuff strapped to her. And I'm like, are you about this life or are you not about this life? Like what life were you about? But we don't get much to explain her besides what Victoria says, and later on she gets to talk more. But like, these are my leads. Like, it's guy number 1, which I don't feel like I really know, and then girl number 1 who guy number 1 likes, and that's what I got. So I ended up finding a lot of more enjoyment in like rooting for Rudy. Like Rudy kind of was my guy. Was my guy throughout this. Jennifer's there to confront Victoria about using her father's company to sell weapons to the government. And we see, like, she literally pulls up a video presentation of Victoria's plan to use the Scarab tech to create super soldiers, or as she calls them, her one-man army corps, or OMAC. Stiffy, because OMAC is a thing in the comics. There was a character called the One Man Army Corps, but in the comics, it's like a hive mind, a computer hive mind that can be implanted in you, and then nanotech just covers your entire body, making everyone OMAC. And it was connected to Brother Eye, which was a worldwide surveillance satellite that Batman had. And someone ended up corrupting it and using it to activate the OMACs. It was a whole thing. So when I heard OMAC, I was like, because it was a whole thing there. That video presentation is the Yellow Jacket presentation, right? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I'm not digging hard.
But that's what I'm saying. I get it, because I'm like, in certain parts of me, I'm like, damn, this is gonna remind people of this. This is gonna remind people of that. But I found myself like saying that as I'm going along with the movie. But I'm glad
it never took you out of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was gonna get to that. It never took me out of it, but it's like I couldn't help but notice. So when I get the fatigue talk, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
Also, that's why I also say, if you can find ways to switch it up to make it unique, fine. That's why I'm a huge fan of a workaround.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know you can't tell these these stories, these origins forever. I knew that from Jump Street. I'm like, is
And you
everybody's
can't
gonna
go
get an
A,
origin
B,
movie?
C, right? Like you were just saying. Sometimes you got
Mm-hmm.
to go B, C, A, B, A, C. You got to change up the dynamic a little bit. But yeah, I'm watching that. I'm just like, this is like the Yellow Jacket, the future of, military, whatever. It's like, and again, both these people, both Darren Cross and Victoria Cord, uh, want to sell these to the government, but don't have the tech for it. The tech is with their arch enemy, and they've got to get that tech in order to make the super soldier program and go. So I was like, okay. Victoria tells her niece that this innovation is the future of Cord Industries and that she should be happy. But Jen maintains her father would never have wanted that. So Victoria's like, well, your dad abandoned the company and your dad abandoned you.
So I'm doing whatever I want.
Victoria begins to threaten Jennifer, and then Jaime steps out and defends her, which I don't think he would have done.
Like a sir.
I don't think he would have done if she wasn't a pretty young woman.
Oh, hold on. To be fair, his sister was taking a dump, and he was being the lookout, and he overheard the argument.
But in what instance in the world do you interrupt that conversation?
Bro, we're Spanish. We're nosy sometimes.
That was too nosy, bro. I'm sitting there like, you don't know these people. Maybe they talk to each other this way.
Damsel
Maybe
in distress.
How you know you don't even know the whole story? How you know she's in distress? He literally would.
I hear it.
She says you should back up. She says you should back up, and then she says like, and what if I don't? And then Jaime goes, hey, she said you should back up. What are you doing?
He's trying
Gets
to
himself
defuse
fired.
the situation, bro.
It ain't his to defuse. He works there. It ain't his to defuse. Jaime, I'm sorry. I'm teaching you a lesson, bro. Stay out of it, because it ain't, it ain't yours. But it does set him on this path. It does set him on this hero's journey, which is why it's a little bit like him getting pushed in that direction, as opposed to him being like, I've always been a good guy. Now I want to use these powers to be a good guy. Right now in this story, it's kind of the small. He's not trying to save the world. He's trying to save his world in this story. He's trying to save his family. I would like to see what motivation he has after this to just like save cats from trees and shit. Because I don't think we're there yet. You get what I'm saying? Like, he's gonna feel the great power, great responsibility directly after this. And I want to see what that deals with, because it's always crazy when it's you and the villain third act, everything's on fire. But I kind of want to see him chill into the role, and it'd be super cool to see that. Hoping to make it up to him, Jennifer tells Jaime to meet her at her job, and she will do her best to get him a new one, which she doesn't, but we'll talk about that. Her sister jokes that Jen will fall in love with her brother and save her from poverty, like Maria del Barrio, a very famous Spanish soap opera. That night, Jaime contemplates calling Jen for the job offer, but gets nervous. He notices his dad is outdoors having a drink by himself, so he goes over to him. His father explains no matter what they go through on this journey, it's important to go through it together, because even though bad times don't last, family is forever. He tells his son that everyone has a place in this world and he will find his one day. I've had many an older male relative just sit with a cup and a bottle sometimes. I get it.
Drop gems of knowledge on you, bro.
I get it. I'm almost surprised he didn't start crying, because that's usually what happens. Ay, mi mijo, come over here, But that the father has to have the weight of all that's going on his shoulders here in this moment. And the fact that he's taking out this moment. I love the fact that he's taking out this moment to be vulnerable by himself. But I also love that he doesn't hide it when his son comes around. Because he has a choice there, right? Oh, no, I'm fine. Let's both go inside. But instead he sits there and he's like,
don't tell your mother.
Starts. Yeah, don't tell shit. Yeah, take another shot. But I love that he does sit there and try to talk to him about stuff. And when you're gone, I didn't do college, but I went to the military. when you come back after that amount of time and everything's kind of changed, you do kind of feel like you're at fault because you're so in your bubble of your world trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish that when you end up coming back, it's not easy to just integrate yourself back in. Things change, people change, attitudes change, relationships change. It's a lot. So I totally get Jaime putting this on his shoulders. He's 22 in this. Or the character is. So there's a lot on his plate, and I am huge on family transparency. So I like that they didn't wait forever to tell him about the eviction. I like that
they
when he
got him as
came
soon as
out.
he came back. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that when he when he came out now and was like, "Are you okay?" Whatever. Like they spoke on it. The next morning, Jaime puts on his best suit and goes to Court Industries, where he is immediately mistaken for the delivery guy. No matter how hard he tries to explain that he's there to meet Jennifer Cord, the receptionist keeps blowing him off. Meanwhile, Jennifer sneaks into one of the labs working on Victoria's OMAC project, and she finds and steals the scarab. Not knowing where to put it, she places the alien artifact in a burger box and walks away. Walks out. Jaime sees her walking briskly, so he catches up to her, hoping she can verify him to her staff, but she gives him the burger box and makes him promise to guard it with his life and never open it. Alarms ring throughout the building as it is discovered that the scarab is missing, but Jaime and Jennifer part ways. Reyes takes the box home and his family demands he open it. Troublemakers, bro. They're chanting, open it. They're chanting, open it. That was his one directive.
I feel like that screw it. House.
That did feel very funny, and that did feel very communal. I thought that was really, really cool. But yeah, they're immediately like, open it. So he does, and he sees the scarab, and it doesn't take long for it to latch itself onto him. Suddenly, the alien begins violently fusing with our hero and coats him in an armored skin that burns his clothes right off. His family rightfully freaks the hell out, and all of a sudden, Jaime can hear a voice, the scarab, talking to him. The entity activates its blasters, and he flies through the roof and goes so far in the air that he briefly leaves the Earth's atmosphere. Still not understanding what's going on, he plummets back to Earth and almost dies before his suit fashions some wings to help him. After a few more hijinks, including landing on a parked car and cutting a bus in half, Doctor Strange, and there was a bus thing in Shang-Chi as well. Jaime realizes that he needs to get rid of this thing, and only Jennifer would know how, because she kind of gave it to him. He returns home, and his mom wants to call the cops, but Uncle Rudy protests, saying that if the government knew that their tech was inside Jaime, they might hurt him to get it back. Plus, alerting the authorities could tip them off to their illegal immigrant status. Jaime says he won't leave the house. Jaime says he won't leave the house, but he steals Rudy's truck to go see if Jenny is in trouble. What do you think about this whole transformation scene and then the hijinks?
I thought that was fire. I mean, that was come on. Hijinks wasn't getting me, but the hijinks was necessary. But man, suit up was cool, man. I really dig the suit. You know how they do version 2 suits and stuff, so I'm really interested in how the version 2 is gonna look. Probably more sharper, but this is fire. I didn't think it was gonna look so well. It's actually very pleasing.
I liked the horror element that they took for the transformation.
Yeah, I like that you said that. I'm glad that you said that. I really, really like that too. Because it can be getting powers ain't gonna be pretty all the time.
Yeah, and the way that they talk about this symbiotic relationship and how it like wraps around your brain and every part of you, it should feel more like guttural like that. I like that, like I refer to it as nanites because I don't know what it is because it's alien tech, but that the nanites, the small bits of computer tech or whatever, look like goo. This is like black goo covering his entire face, going in his mouth, and ultimately just making the mask and making the stuff, like making his clothes. I like that. I like the HUD display that we see. I like how that looks. That looks too. It's very odd. At one point, he looks in the mirror, and not in the mirror. He looks at the wall. But he looks at the wall, and it's a picture of the Virgin Mary, and the reflection reflects back to him Blue Beetle's face with the Virgin Marys because
Oh yeah,
he's Blue Beetle. So
yeah.
I was saying there like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Um, what did you think about Rudy's insistence that if the scarab is inside of him, it went up his butt?
He was very adamant about it going up his butt, but
It
we
went
don't
up his
see
culo.
where we don't, we don't see where the scarab crawled up, but we do see it on his back though.
Well, it was like running around his face for a while, and then it went to his
Well,
shirt,
yeah,
yeah, and then it
they went
disappeared.
under his
Yeah.
shirt and then I guess under him.
What do you think about that? That spine thing.
I was just about to say, but I don't know about the spine thing. That spine thing, I don't know. That's if they really gonna rock with that, then I feel like by the time the second movie is coming around, which I hope they do get a second one. You got to think the Scarab and Jaime are cool, right? You think she gonna smooth
Yeah,
that out?
it speaks Spanish at the end of this, so I think that's the
Yeah, it
moment
does.
where
It
it's
does.
like
It does.
okay. But that's what I'm saying. Like I'm so now I'm back on board. I'm back on board,
Mhm.
whatever. And then he drives to go to see Jennifer and gets there exactly when she's running around cars trying to sneak because armed men are trying
I
to
thought that
gun
was
her
cool. I
down
thought
in the street.
that was what's funny about that? I was there are very few times that I go in movies that I go, oh, that's a freaking coincidence. I genuinely
Mm-hmm.
felt that was coincidence. I thought that was cool. I like that setup. I don't see that because he goes to her, and by the time he gets to her, it's already going down because you
Yeah,
think he's gonna get to her first, chop it up, and then it's gonna go down. You know,
yeah,
or at least I was thinking that way. You know, and he gets there, and it's already going down. He has to get her into his uncle's truck, and they shoot up his uncle's truck. So I thought
poor
that was
thing.
really cool. That was coincidentally a coincidence that I was fond of.
That was a coincidence you were cool with. I
Yeah.
No, I was saying you have to speak in those moments because you are the voice of the voiceless currently. Because I am, you know how I feel about
Indeed,
this
indeed, indeed.
parts of this.
But
And again, no beef, and no
I'm not
thing
gonna
either.
argue with you because I understand.
And similarly, I think that your points are valid as well. I think that everything that you're saying is 100% valid. If only the world can come together like that, right? Yeah, so I'm like, okay, oh, she's getting gunned down. Uh, she jumps into the truck, and the men pursue them and begin to fire at them. He brings her to his house and explains that the scarab has bonded to him. She tells Jaime that the scarab is a sentient weapon and that it has willingly chose Jaime to be its host. If they want more answers, she knows where they can get them, but they need the key, and that is at the heavily guarded Cord Industries. Rudy shows that he knows a thing or two about disrupting surveillance and agrees to help. At a banquet, Victoria is informed that Jennifer got away, but Mr. Carapax, the mysterious and scarred man who never leaves her side, uh, he's the one who informs her. Cord demands that he find Jenny because she cannot unveil her OMAC project without the scarab. It's also hinted that Carapax has paid a physical toll in the pursuit of this technology. What do you think about that, dude? What do you think about Carapax?
uh, I'm not a the cliche follow the boss around, protect the ball, protect the bad boss. I'm the big henchman. I like him. He was very intimidating.
Did you ever think that there was more? Like, because throughout this, I feel like they're kind of, putting down breadcrumbs to show that he's more than what he seems.
Yeah, that they want to also show him that he's just a man.
I'm just a man.
But
But did you get were you curious at all about what was going on with
I
him?
kind of was, but because of the cliche, oh, protect the boss, protect the bad guy.
Yeah.
I really didn't think we were gonna get that. So when they eventually captured Hyman, and he has that little pep talk with him, I thought that was it. I'm like, all right, he's just gonna keep fighting. And that's just sunk in. All right, let's deal with
That's
him.
funny. That's funny. So Uncle Rudy shows off his anti-surveillance tech and uses it to play El Champolin on all the security screens, which allows them to get into the building. Were you happy about that deep cut? that's like the deepest. The first cut is the deepest.
Indeed. Everybody has that. Everybody has well in Spanish family. Everybody has that, and that one person in the family that watches their novelas, their stories.
Yeah. I also dug, because he's a superhero. So I also dug that they at least stuck to the superhero motif. But yeah, he plays El Trampoline. They retrieve a watch that Jenny says is the key, but security calls in Carapax for backup. When he arrives, he confronts Jaime and Jenny, and Jaime's suit activates by instinct. I thought that was pretty cool. Like he went for a punch, and the suit was like, "Yeah, nah."
And he caught it. And nah,
the suit was like, "Hey, nah, I got a job."
And you see the rest of them suit up. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was the first fight scene of the movie, right?
Yeah, because he hasn't really done anything yet. But Carapax kind of fashions himself a suit as well. But the tech seems unfinished. Like even as it's coming on him, it's like sputtering and sparking.
Yeah, sputtering. Like, you see that, right?
I'm like, this is not gonna work, bro. It reminded me of
this
when
is not safe.
Remember when John Walker had that shitty shield that broke when he threw it? That's exactly what that reminded me of. I was like, oh no. All right. So the two duke it out, and the Scarab attempts lethal measures. But Jaime says no weapons. Carapax is relentless, hell-bent on getting his hands on the Scarab, so Jaime lets the alien entity take control over the suit and kick his butt. Once Carapax is down, the Scarab creates blaze to neutralize him, but Jaime is against killing and calls it off. The distraction allows Carapax to get the upper hand and almost kill Jaime, but Uncle Rudy and Jenny show up in the truck and help take Carapax down. They drive off as soon as they can, and Jaime reveals the Scarab's name to be Kajita, saying the info just popped into his head. Got a fight scene here. What do you think about Jaime not wanting to use deadly measures? I feel like this would be the time to do that.
First of all, the voice of the Beetle.
Yes.
No, and then I'm listening to music in the house, and then I go, oh, that's Becky G.
Yes, it is Becky G.
Then I went to go look it up, and then I just saw a picture.
Isn't that great?
That's cool. So she'll
definitely
be back. She'll definitely be back.
Yeah. Yeah, completely dug her. Yeah, I liked that the suit was like, just let me handle this, and then as soon as it gets control, it just whoops Carapax's ass. Like there's not
wows out.
Yeah, it just whoops his ass, and then
remember, Jaime had to keep telling her not to kill, don't kill this man.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like if there's any man to kill, like this guy, he's like fully shooting machine gun fire in the street. He almost shoots a girl.
Is ill intended. You heard?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
A bit, but I also say, like, I mean, I guess it's a slippery slope, right? You can't just kill everybody, and I'm not advocating for that, but I just feel like for self-preservation reasons, when a man has a machine gun at you, I think you can like stab him in the leg.
It is
something
allowed,
that makes him not walk. Yeah. Cut off an arm. Cut off an arm or something. Something that he's gonna remember and be like, yeah, I should probably not pursue them.
We're gonna go to the hospital.
You know? With the key in hand, they head to the secret headquarters of Ted Cord, Jennifer's dad, who was also the superhero, the Blue Beetle, which causes Rudy to mark out a little bit. They dig through Ted's old files because he was obsessed with the Scarab, hoping to find a way that they can separate Jaime from the alien artifact, but it turns out they can't do so without killing him, as it is wrapped around his brain. Jaime flips out over the news that he is stuck with this thing and storms out, so Rudy goes to give him a pep talk, and I'm like, we just gave you a pep talk, bro. We gave you a pep talk earlier in the movie. And also, they do that scene of like, you should wash up. I'll go help you get clothes. And I'm like, come on. The only thing I like in the scene prior to this of Jennifer and Jaime talking is
Mhm.
she says something along like, my family's house was always filled with stuff. Your family's
Yeah,
house is filled with love.
that little 2 minutes right there was tight as hell. I
That
really, really
line, I
dug
was
that.
like,
That
that
was
was
that was
really
heavy.
well written.
Yeah, yeah, that
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 was
was
really well
heavy.
written, and that was really, really well said. So again, I will give this film its due. Uncle Rudy tries to explain that their family have always sacrificed and done the right thing even through hardships. He tells Jaime about how hard his father worked to get to America and keep the family together because that's what they do. Suddenly, they see one of Victoria's like ships or helicopters or drones. I can't remember what. I think they're helicopters, right?
The air car, they're helicopters more or less
The cord carriers.
because they got like a big ass uh thing on one of the helicopters. But they ready
I
it, and that thing just unfolds itself.
I think,
And
yeah, I'm
it's like
gonna
a
call it.
harpoon.
They're cord cutters. They're Victoria cord cutters.
The cord
Um.
chopper.
Well.
The cord chopper.
Uh. The chopper style. Chopper. Anyway. But what do you? Oh, let's talk a little bit about that. That was basically like the great power, great responsibility speech, right? Like, I'm not saying
Mhm.
that like to be funny. This is the first time I've ever heard someone say like our family. It's expected for rough things to happen in our life, and our family gets through them by sticking together. That's rarely ever said. That's rarely ever put out plainly there. But it's the
It's
idea
really
that
nice.
he says something along the lines of like your father worked anywhere that he could, bus boy, parking attendant, whatever, to keep the family together. Not because he wanted to or always wanted to, but because it was the right thing. And I think that's the idea of great power comes great responsibility. With Jaime is like, a lot of times this job is going to be doing things you don't necessarily want to do, but you got to do them because they're right. You might be scared. It might be a lot of hard work, but you got to do them because that's what this family does. We're accountable, and we do the right thing. We have integrity. So I did like that speech that he gave him there. And I like the stakes of realizing that this cord cutter helicopter cordcopter is en route to his family's house, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh damn. Like,
Yeah,
now the
I'm
race is
here.
on. The race is on because they're going over there, and how the hell are we gonna get there? um so I really dug that. Jaime is able to activate his suit by jumping off a building and does his best to fly home as soon as possible. Also, little reminiscent, right? Go web, Shazam, jump off a building, see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, Peter tried to shoot the webs. At least Hyman didn't try to like do something great.
I
But
will.
then again, he did say that Scarab was going to protect him. So anything else, Cedar just didn't fall inside while he suited up.
I feel like
But that
my
was a good
favorite
way.
version of this is the Shazam transformation, the jumping off the building.
But that was good though.
Shazam!
But it was but you knew that was gonna happen. You knew not that you knew it was gonna happen, but you knew if he said Shazam, he'd transform.
Yeah, you know what it
It
was?
wasn't so
It's
much of
Moon
the, it
Knight. That's
wasn't.
what it was. The Moon Knight of it all. Isn't that exactly what happens with Mr. Knight? He jumps off the right because he can't get the suit to activate. I can't get the suit. Put on the suit. I don't know how to put on the suit. I can't put on the suit. And then I can't remember if he gets pushed out of a window or he falls out of the window. But when he lands, suit, because it won't let him kill it. It won't let him die. Makes sense. Rudy. The goons surround the Reyes home and break in, hold the family at gunpoint, and trash the place. I don't mean to be problematic. This is not even a criticism. I felt like this was shot to kind of invoke ice raids. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
and just like the brunt force, the confusion, the
100%.
violence and
100%.
aggression, the way that everybody comes out of their houses, right, to look at what's going on, all that. I guess Victoria owns the city, but like her goons are going through with no repercussions. Like they are the cops, kind of, right?
That's not what they get paid for, damn it.
Where's the police at? And why won't they come to the edge keys? No, I get it. I was in East New York. I get it. Yeah, we'll be there in 2 hours. We're on our way. We'll get there. They knock over a candle, which begins to burn the house down. Even under threat, the family does not give up Jaime's location, and luckily
Bro,
he shows
they came
right
to
up.
the house, they grabbed everybody, and for no ass reason, just started knocking shit over. Did you peep
Yeah,
that?
that's why I put it in that order. I put they
Like-
break in, they hold the family at gunpoint, and then trash the place. It's not that they break in, trash the place looking for the family, and then put them
They
at
already got the
gunpoint.
family.
They already
Family's on
had
the way
them.
out.
They just start trashing stuff. It's like I said, it's just like I always said that's the perfect trait of a perfect villain, just doing too much, because they automatically gets a boo, right? Oh, come on! Like I get who you were there to apprehend them. You didn't have to start knocking shit over. Doing too much. Yeah, Jaime shows right up using the alien tech to take down Cord's men, although with non-lethal means. You know, he's using a lot of like sound cannons and waves and stuff to knock people out. He's having a blast though. Doing very, very well. In the chaos, Jaime's father suffers a heart attack and dies. This distraction allows Carapax to restrain and haul Jaime and the suit away while the family mourns in front of their burning home. Rudy and Jenny arrive, but it's too late. They have Jaime and the Scarab. Deep stuff, bro. Deep stuff, bruv. What'd you think about this scene?
So, wait, what you said?
What'd you think about the whole like heart attack?
Bro, that was so not so. All right, so not only did we get everybody out the house and on the way out knocking shit over, we stressed Dad out so much he busted into cardiac arrest. Nah.
It's also crazy because when I first saw it, I thought he got hit. I thought when I first saw it, there was a lot going on. I thought he got hit. And I also like that it's not a random heart attack. They allude to it earlier in the film.
Yeah. They like,
it's not like he randomly like, oh my god,
hey, this happened before. We're gonna drop this here for later,
Yeah, and then also not to be that guy. If we're going with the woke family stuff, people of lower income eat less healthily, sleep less, make less money for their overall health.
Right.
Therefore, they do not go to the doctor. Living my life experience, I gotta believe that some of those factors affected his family and affected his father.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're a busboy, I don't think you're getting health insurance. If you're an illegal immigrant, stuff like that. So, the hood gets hit hard, but it also gets hit in different ways. There's also so many different. Someone said it the other day, like being poor is the most expensive thing in the world because you got to pay double when you're poor, right? So it's just sad all around. And then watching their family home, which was the one thing he wanted to save when he came home, go up in flames. It really makes you wonder, because at one point he tells Rudy, like, there is no good news. Like, there's no good news. Like, stop trying to find the silver lining. And it can feel that way sometimes, when everything that you work for, when the direction that you're going in seems to, like, everything is pushing you back in the opposite direction, it could be incredibly frustrating. And I like how they kind of hinted towards that whole experience and that whole struggle in this. Then the next morning, Grandma Reyes gives an impassioned speech about needing to be brave enough to fight and how now is not the time to cry.
First of all,
Jenny says she knows. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish. First of all.
No, it's just one more sentence. Jenny says she knows where they took him, and they head back to Ted's underground lair and arm themselves with his tech before using his bug ship to go to Jaime's location.
First of all, Grab and Mom's becoming the main characters for the little time that they had.
Yeah.
Love it. Love the speech. You know what I'm saying?
Speech was very good.
Speech
was very good. And little bit of Encanto in the sense that, like, I think one of the things that you're led to believe, you got told by Rudy and shown by Grandma that your ancestors have done some pretty amazing things to get you to where you're at today. We don't know what Grandma was up there doing. You know, we don't know why Grandma has the knowledge she has of certain things that we'll get into in a bit. But whatever she did in those days was able to create a better launching point for her family, which then was taken advantage of by the next generation, who then bust their ass even more to the point that they get to create an offspring that is able to go to college and graduate, you know? And sometimes when you've had the road paved for you and something happens, you can bug out. But when you're the road paver, you know never to freak out.
Making that road?
Yeah, well, you know never to bug out. You know never to stress, because that job never stops. Right? And if you broke down and you know, did not choose which energy you're going to listen or respond to, because the energy they need right now is the energy to go whoop some ass. They don't need energy to be sitting there crying about the father, because Jaime could die in that time that they're doing that. So I really like that she's like, I'm not saying we can't cry. I'm just saying it's not now. You know, let's go do this, because now is the time to fight. I was like, girl, what are we doing? I'm down. Grandma likes the minigun. So I think we should say that as well. I love that they take his big bug ship. I love that they take Ted's bug ship. I always thought that the Blue Beetle's little ship was ridiculous. The same way that Moon Knight's big ass crescent moon ship is ridiculous.
The Thanos copper,
Thanos copper, the cord copper, chopper, all that stuff. I think is it's pretty ridiculous. But when I see it in live action, it's even cooler. But though, if that thing looks familiar, if that bug ship looks familiar, but you're not a big Blue Beetle fan, you might be getting Night Owl sort of vibes. But for those who don't know, Night Owl from Watchmen is a parody of Ted Kord's Blue Beetle. When Alan Moore wrote Watchmen, he wanted to use DC characters. And they said, if we let you use DC characters and do what you're doing with them here, we can't use them again. If Superman becomes an all-seeing god and walks away from humanity and lives on Mars, right? No one's gonna be about that. If Batman,
your cosmic knowledge.
My cosmic knowledge, bro. So what they ended up doing was they said, you can't use the DC comic characters, but you can use as many of the Charlton comic characters as you want, because we just bought them from somebody else. And he's like, oh, you know what, fine. I won't use the Charlton comic characters, but I will make my own versions of them. So the Ted Kord Blue Beetle becomes Night Owl. Peacemaker. The character of Peacemaker that's a Charlton Comics character. And the parody of Peacemaker in Watchmen is the comedian. So it's all there. And I like that they paid homage to, well, I mean, not homage, they're the OGs, so they're kind of paying respect to themselves in this. But yeah, I always thought that was super interesting when it came to those characters. Jaime is taken to an island fortress in Cuba, where he is strapped to a machine that downloads information from Kajida to the thousands of OMACs ready to be up and operational. Yep, I got that too. While unconscious, Jaime sees a vision from his father, who encourages him to embrace his destiny as the new Blue Beetle. Jaime awakens and sorry. His father encourages him to embrace his destiny as a new Blue Beetle, saying it was his destiny to meet him here at this point in his life to remind him of his purpose. And then he wakes up. Meanwhile, Carapac's OMAC suit activates now that it has all the Scarab information in it, and it kind of evolves into a more powerful form. So obviously, I get the Blue Beetle father thing. I think that's kind of sucky to find out your father is dead because you have a near-death experience and then you see him on the other side. That's a lot. Yeah. That's pretty heavy.
I said the same thing. I was like, oh man, that's right. He didn't even know. He wasn't even there. He had to dip. Yeah.
But the problem becomes that it's not even the only film this year for someone to have a near-death experience. See their dead loved one on the other side.
Lord.
Have that dead loved one tell them it's not your time yet. You have to go back. And you have to go. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there and I'm just like, all right, third act, baby, third act. The family crash lands the bug, and the guards immediately open fire on them. But Rudy's able to figure out the ship's controls and activates its legs, so it can like scurry and scuttle,
beetle around,
and it walks around and neutralizes all the threats. It even like kind of farts some blue stuff on some of them.
Shout out for that thing being bulletproof, because they were shooting the crap out of that thing.
Yeah, and in true comic book movie form of like, I'm shooting it, but it's not going down. Let's shoot it more. Let's shoot it. And more people shoot it. more shooting has to work. So Cord's guards are no match for the array of weaponry and durability the bug ship has. Once everybody is done and all the bad guys are down, the family splits up to look for Jaime. The girls plant bombs to destroy the legions of Omax, knowing how dangerous they can be if they all got activated. Jaime awakens with new motivation and fully connects with the Scarab.
Yeah.
The girls detonate the bombs, and in the chaos, Jaime manages to break free. Cord's scientist betrays her for never remembering his name and allows Jaime to escape, but he gets killed for it. I love that actor, though. He's from What We Do in the Shadows. He plays Guillermo. Mm-hmm. I want to say his name. So it is. It says his whole character name. Come on.
But I think it's mad long.
Oh, Harvey Gillian. Yeah, Harvey Gillian. Great comedic, and he says he has like one of those 4 or 5 last names.
Yeah, that's what I said.
My name is Manuel de Soto de la Cruz. Jaime is surrounded by guards in the tunnel, but they are turned into Swiss cheese by his grandma and her minigun. Jaime reunites with his family, but Milagros is still inside, and Victoria finds and apprehends Jenny so he can get back in to get them. I was mad at this part. I was like, he just got free. Honestly, something happens in Guardians like that. Remember? Mm-hmm. Peter goes to meet the High Evolutionary and manages to break free and go back. But when Drax and Mantis go to save him, they get stuck on the ship. So even though Peter breaks free, he has to go back to now get them. He
still has to go back to go get them.
And Jaime is in the same situation. He broke free. He's Gucci. Oh, damn. They got stuck trying to get me. So now I got to go. Now I got to go get him. So before he leaves, his mother scolds Kajuda, demanding that they get it together.
I thought that was fire too, bro.
That was a very mom speech of like meeting your girlfriend for the first time 100%, and overhearing one of you guys argue.
I was with that. The family is excellent when it comes to speeches. So I'm
yes,
you know what I'm saying. I like that. We need
she says, "Get it together."
Shoot promo, you better be good.
100%. He says, "Get it together and kick ass." Milagros is able to use Ted's tech to defend herself for a bit before her brother arrives, and as their mother intended, kicks ass. It eventually comes down to Jaime and Carapax, but now that he is fully merged with the Scarab, he's able to take down the merciless cyborg. Although it gets rough for our hero, he manages to subdue the threat after a distraction from Uncle Rudy. But Carapax shoots at Rudy, and there's a big explosion. Thinking Rudy is dead, Jaime demolishes his foe and nearly kills Carapax before Kajida
Waxing
reveals.
him.
yeah. Before Kajida reveals to Jaime memories of Carapax's enslavement by Victoria for the OMAC experiments, including Carapax's mother's death at Victoria's hands, leading Jaime to spare him.
They were connected.
Very Taskmaster. I got Taskmaster feelings.
Yeah, but
right here.
He's talking. Homegirl is like a
but it wasn't her fault. It wasn't her
fault.
What I'm saying? She got experimented on. She was used and abused, and we shouldn't hate her because of the fact that she was a paid soldier, or like a.
But she was with it. I don't care what nobody said. He was.
So was he.
All right then.
Oh, so you ain't got no sympathy? No, I didn't know we were talking about this. Do you not have any sympathy for Carapax in this moment? Do you think he should die for killing Pops?
Did he kill Pop? Listen, there was a heart attack. Nah, he got his butt whooped. I think if you're gonna come out the other side reformed, so to speak, you should at least gotten your licks.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Boy, did he
cut off a leg. Take it home with you.
Make him not do it. Make him not do it no more. You know what
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But I did think that the backstory was a bit jacked up. It was a bit screwed up. I also think that this happens. I also think that there's child soldiers ripped out of South America, ripped out of the Caribbeans, kind of set on a path of destruction and anger and violence. And it's hard to break that if that's all you know. And the idea that Carapax this entire time had been carrying a locket that was a picture of him and his mom, and then he drops it at one point and Victoria puts it in his pocket. And he kind of shows you that relationship that they have there, where she does treat him like a dog, like bad dog on occasion when he doesn't get the job done, etc. So Carapax rebels against Victoria and sets his OMAC suit to explode and grabs her and drags her into the fire. He grabs her and drags her onto the fire. He destroys the island as well as himself, taking the terrorists out with him as vengeance for his mama. As the Reyes family escapes from the island, they take time to mourn Alberto.
And now we can cry. I thought that was. Oh man, that was sad too, bro.
Yeah,
that was heavy.
Well done, though. Well done.
I wasn't expecting that. I was. Well, I wasn't expecting her to say that anyway. But that was very, not elderly, but very grand.
Okay. I said the wrong word for the girl, for Jennifer. She's not too pretty. She is very pretty. She's not too pretty. She's too cool.
She's too cool?
She's too cool.
Bro, Pop ran the company, owned the company.
He's gone. We don't even know where he's at.
But she's been around. She's basically rich. You do just think,
bro. She pulls up to the crib. CEO of Cord Industries pulls up to the crib in a motorcycle and a leather jacket.
Yeah.
What are we doing out here? Nah. And if it would have been vice versa, if Kamala would have hooked up with some CEO at, I don't know, Hammer Tech, and he shows up in a leather jacket, glasses, I'm like, what are you doing, woman? What's going on here? Just felt weird. Felt very strange. Makes her seem older than him.
Makes her seem older than him? Isn't she older than him? That's what
why would she be?
I don't know, but that's what I understand.
I don't know if there's any proof.
I feel like she's older than him.
Only because she's a CEO.
Yeah, but
he's like, what about college?
he just coming out of college. I think
she didn't have to go to school. It was her father's business.
That's true. But I still feel like she's older than him.
Maybe. Definitely cooler than him. Because Jenny's the new CEO of Cord Industries, and she promises to repair the damage caused to the Reyes family, helping them rebuild their home. As the neighbors gather around the remains of the Reyes family's home and provide support, Jaime shares a kiss with Jenny and then offers to fly her to the Cord estate. I also like that Jenny hinted that they might possibly put Rudy on the team.
Right?
He might get put on the team. He should. In a mid-credit scene, a distorted recording from from Ted is broadcast in his library, attempting to inform Jenny that he is alive. This was a bit hinted at because there's a mannequin with no suit on it, so we're led to believe that Ted's not only missing, we know now that he's alive, but we believe he was out on Blue Beetle business. The recent rumor, he might be in a bit of time trouble, hanging out with his good old friend Booster Gold.
Interesting.
In a post-credit scene, a clip from the stop-motion version of El Chapulín is shown, which Rudy used to distract the Cord Estate guards. So, like I said, there was a lot of fun to have in this. I probably had more fun talking to you about it than I did in my first viewing experience. And again, a lot of good in this. If this is their first step, they're on the right path. It's just one of those things. Sure. It's just like when one of your friends tells you they got a credit card at 35. Like, I'm ready to start building my credit. You're like, well,
good for you.
I'm glad you got. I'm good for you. I'm glad you got there. But there's like a lot of. You got a lot of. It's gonna be some time here. It's gonna be. You're gonna have to take a lot of time. But hopefully we didn't take up too much of your time in this episode of the Major Issues podcast. We try to put these episodes out every single Wednesday, but sometimes because of other situations, commitments, or whatever, we haven't been able to. We've missed a handful, but we're still rocking on the road to episode 300, bro. This is episode 294. So we're getting closer and closer to episode 300 and closer to the 7-year anniversary of the Major Issues podcast. I want to thank our seemingly real YouTube following, because when our podcast posts, it posts automatically on YouTube. Apparently people have been watching it, commenting on certain podcast episodes, and to be honest, I stopped looking at my analytics on that side, but most recently I'm starting to like comments and stuff. So I see you guys out there. If you're only catching us on YouTube, best believe the best place to find all the episodes of the Major Issues podcast is at ComicBookClique.com. ComicBookClique.com is the one stop for everything Comic Book Clique. Merchandise designed by me. We got a new Ninja Turtle shirt out right now that's already been selling like hotcakes. Yeah. Articles written by us, and also every single episode of the Major Issues podcast. That's over 294 episodes. That's over 500 hours of content. So talking about everything from the latest and greatest things to come to comic books, comic book media. So go to comicbookclique.com for everything Comic Book Clique. If you like what we're doing and you want to support us, there's so many different ways you can. So let's start at the most expensive way you can. The most expensive way you can support us is by buying a piece of merchandise at our TeePublic store. If you go to comicbookclique.com and hit that shop CBC link, it'll take you straight to our TeePublic store with designs made exclusively by me, and we get a kickback of every single item purchased. We don't get the full amount of the item, but we get pennies on the dollar, and that does help keep the lights on here and afford all the hardware and software that we need to keep providing content free of charge for you guys. If you guys don't want to buy any merch, consider going to patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse. And for as little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month, guys, $3 a month. You drop that in your couch, with change. So for less than $3 a month, or for $3 a month, less than a cup of big ass coffee, you can help support us here, and it goes a long way. You could also, let's say you don't have any money. You can't give us money on Patreon. You can't buy any merchandise. Tell a friend about the podcast. Rate and review us on iTunes. If we get 5 stars, we get recommended to other people looking for our kind of content. And I am of the belief that our audience is still out there. Even though we have a sizable audience now, I'm of the belief that there are still lost members of the clique out there that need to find us. So help them find us. You found us. Now connect to them. Bring them over, because I've been to the future and the bandwagon does get full. So you want to get on there before we get there. And the quickest way to make this a two-way conversation, because I know I have a soothing voice, and I know sometimes you just want to sit there and listen to me talk, but I want to hear you too. So go out and reach out to us on Facebook.com/ComicBookClique, Instagram at ComicBookClique, or use the hashtag ComicBookClique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic book media. We're also at Major Issue CBC on Twitter and at Major Issue CBC on Twitch. Our social media numbers are kind of crazy. I did not think we would be getting there because for a very long time it was very hard to reach out to the masses. And I feel like this year alone we've hit our stride. We are, if my numbers are correct, we ended last year at around 9,000, a high 9,000s. Right now in August we're at roughly 16,000.
Ooh, thank
We're
you, peeps.
seemingly we're on the course to get roughly 1,000 followers every month. Um, my hope is that we double last year's numbers by the end of this year. So we would just have to get 18. We're at 16. So I think that's very doable. Let's get even past that. Make me feel like my standards are low. You know what I'm saying? Let's blow past that.
Tell
Tell
the
a friend
people,
to
tell
tell
the
a friend.
world.
Tell the world, man. Get the word out there. Maybe not this episode if they're a big Blue Beetle movie fan, but go out there. We've covered everything under the sun. If there's a comic book film that has come out in theaters since 2017, we've covered it, man. We've covered it right here as part of the Major Issues podcast. So make sure that you check that out when you get a chance. I'm trying to think. I did all my plugs. I did all
Ooh.
my Patreon, whatever. I don't know what we're covering next week. I think it might be the Adam Eve Invincible origin story. Talking about origin stories.
Ooh.
Let's see. And we might even do a live watch of Invincible season 2. I'm considering it. Twitch has a partnership with Amazon Prime and allows for watch parties through Twitch. If I can experience these episodes with you, and then once the season wraps up, do a an episode recapping the entire season, I think that would be really, really cool and a fun way to interact with this fan base. And you guys are the very best. Thank you guys for allowing us to do this, because not for nothing, we would have done this anyway, but it gives us a little bit more pep in our step to know that there's people out there that are digging what we're doing here.
For sure.
But my name is George Serrano, aka the Don.
I am the Cloudus Maximus.
And this has been your Blue Beetle recap and review. And remember, whether it's one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, it's definitely Blue Beetle. Remember, family is everything. It's all about familia. It's all about mi gente. Viva la raza! But
Animo.
But also remember that if you're part of this family, that means you're part of the clique, which always means that you, yes, you, are worthy.